Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Tomas covers, three-handle family Gradunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now,
Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
number four, armbar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the B Plus Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Sunday. You know what that means. It's time for All the Rest. All the Rest is our weekly episode where we talk about all the rest of what happened in the world of wrestling, but I'm going to let Mr Myster1ous explain that to you. See, I am currently robbing banks and trains in the Wild West. As people who listen to the show regularly know, I've taken the week off to play Red Dead Redemption because I am a nerd.
Nerd, 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 nerd.
So, taking over the reins for All the Rest this week is Mr Myster1ous. Probably next week too, I think we'll figure that out. But sorry that this episode is a little bit late. We had a couple of technical difficulties. Editing tools aren't what they used to be in the Wild Wild West. But the episode is here now. Don't be afraid. You can find out what happened in MLW and Lucha Underground. I'm going to pass over to Mr Myster1ous and let him take care of the rest. Thank you so much for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the B Plus Wrestling Podcast. I'm your man of mystery, Mr Myster1ous here, filling in for our fearless leader, Greg Unchained, and I'm going to be covering all the rest today, where we talk about everything wrestling, asterisks, that doesn't fit into our scheduled programming. For those of you who don't know about me, I'm one of the newer members of the B Plus crew. I look at the West Australian side of the Australian wrestling, so all things New Horizons Pro Wrestling, All Action Wrestling, Explosive Pro Wrestling, and Southern Hemisphere Wrestling Alliance. Also, I'm one of the main contributors on the Facebook page to keep you guys up to date on the international wrestling news, the domestic news, and just, as well, the lighter side of professional wrestling, where I'm in charge of the birthday news for every day. So, at the time I'm recording, I might as well give a shout out as well. Wish a happy 40th birthday to CM Punk, the cult of personality, longest reigning WWE champion in the modern era until Brock Lesnar, but yeah, that's neither here nor there. And a happy 45th birthday to Taka Michinoku, former WWF Light Heavyweight Champion, IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, legendary figure over in Japan. Both men, iconic figures, some of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Wish them all the very best today. We are going to be covering, I should say as well, so usually on Wednesdays we have our Kings of the Sports Universe cast where we cover New Japan Pro Wrestling and all the affiliated productions like CMML, Ring of Honor. On Friday we have our Aussie Grats podcast where we cover everything that's going on in the land of Oz in terms of wrestling, and we usually aim to talk to either an Australian wrestler or someone who is contributing to Aussie Graps in a fantastic way, making it grow. Hashtag you're going to notice us. Hashtag Now We Conquer. We are big advocates for that here. And on Saturday, we have our View from the WWE Universe show, but that is not today. Today is All the Rest. I'm going to be talking a little MLW. I'm going to be talking a little Lucha Underground, and just all the other news that's come across our desk this week in this crazy world we know as wrestling. Kicking things off, we might as well start with MLW, episode 27. The main event being Filthy Tom Lawler going up against Swerve Shane Strickland, who is the ace of MLW. First off, not a big fan of the word ace of MLW. Obviously, like, face that runs the place is a lot more catchy, and they're trying to find that niche thing to say, like, who's the guy who's going to be a future champion, lead the company into a brighter tomorrow. Yeah, it's not really agreeing with me, and it hasn't been really been promoted that much, saying, like, I'm the ace, and it's not one of those things that feel like you can brag about. Maybe that's just me, but I might warm to the term as the weeks progress. Anyways, we kicked things off. You had Tony Schiavone and Matt Striker on commentary, which, commentary, like Matt Striker's commentary, he's on MLW and he's also on Lucha Underground. You get what you get. It's not groundbreaking, but he's there. We start off with Hijo de LA Park being accompanied by Selena De La Renta, of course representing Promociones Dorado. I could talk for hours on end about Selena De La Renta. I think she's one of the best heel managers of all time in the wrestling industry. And they were going up against Sammy Guevara. This was a great match to kick off MLW. For those of you who are unfamiliar to the MLW scene, it's hour-long episodes every week. They are free on YouTube. Highly recommend checking them out. Really, it's more of a promotional-based show where for the first couple matches, you have smaller matches here and there. Sometimes they're squashes, sometimes they're just quick bursts of energy. You have a lot of promos leading up to the next big event or to next week. A lot of backstage interviews with a lot of the stars. And then you have your big main event, which usually goes for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on, and is usually a really great showing for whoever is able to get that spot. Yeah, like I said, this is a fun match. A very bizarre one, because last week was Hijo de LA Park's debut. And he actually lost that one, which really, I'm still scratching my head about, because he and his father, LA Park, have a MLW Tag Team Championship opportunity against the Lucha Brothers, Ray Phoenix and Pentagon Jr. And of course, we're building up to that, so naturally you want Hijo and his father to be racking up those victories. So last week didn't happen for whatever reason, but here we fixed that issue, and Sammy Guevara returning in fine form to MLW. He looked fantastic. This was just quick 10 minutes of lots of flips and dives. Like, you started out the match with literally suicide swanton dive by Hijo de LA Park. He threw Sammy Guevara into the ring. Sammy shrugged off all of the dive that he did. Literally did his own dive. He's basically like bolted and did his own, like, out of camera frame, and then landed on LA Park. Like, that's one of those, like, blink and you miss, like, holy shit, he actually did that kind of moments. But yeah, Selena fired Sammy a few weeks ago. He actually used to be a part of Promociones Dorado, so it makes sense for him to try and prove that he doesn't deserve, like, makes sense for Hijo to win, and to prove that he doesn't deserve to be with Selena, doesn't deserve to be in her presence of this incredible woman. So yeah, congratulations Hijo de LA Park. We will see hopefully some more victories, and we're back on track in the build-up in their tag team championship match. We cut to an interview with Tom Lawler, going up again, talking about tonight's main event. He says everyone knows what they'll get out of him, and that's simply the best. But what would they get out of Swerve? Ominous. Very, very ominous. Of course, then we cut to another promo with Conan. He is the manager of the Lucha Brothers, so he is talking a bit of smack about Selena, about her actions during the last showing. And one of my favorite episodes of MLW so far was the MLW Heavyweight Championship match between Low-Ki and Ray Phoenix. I believe it was episode 24. That one was incredible. Please go watch that. It's one of those better episodes of MLW. Like, again, they only have about an hour to show things, so when there is a great match on the card, it's really worth your time. But he cut a promo saying that last time she came out on top, Low-Ki won against Ray Phoenix, and Selena literally tore off the mask of Ray Phoenix, allowing Low-Ki to get the victory, which was a sickening image. It was a bloody match, like, filled with lots of amazing spots. But yeah, he's saying obviously the Lucha Brothers will defeat LA Park and his son when the time comes. You had your next match was the Samoan Island tribe, Samu and the head shrinker Samu and his son Lance Anawahi going up against the smash and dash connection of Koto Brazil and Barrington Hughes. This was a pretty standard match. This only went for about 7-10 minutes, if that. Samu, of course, is one of the more esteemed members of the MLW roster. I believe he's in his 50s, and Barrington Hughes is one of the more heftier members of the MLW roster. So as much as this was a tag match, really this was the brunt of the work was carried by Lance and Koto Brazil. I was surprised here. I thought that the Anoa'i family would go over strong for this one. Of course, the Samoan Island tribe, if you are familiar with MLW in its initial run back in the early 2000s, Samu was part of the original Samoan Island tribe with MLW. They had a nice little nostalgia box in the corner in introducing Samu and his son. But yeah, it was a pretty standard match. I am actually liking the fact that we're seeing more tag teams. We haven't seen enough tag team matches in MLW. Again, 1 hour, not a chance to talk, not a chance to show all the other great workers, but it feels for quite a while that I've just been watching the Lucha Brothers and the Hart Foundation for the longest time, which is fine. They are very talented performers, but where are the Dirty Blondes? Where are the other members of the tag team roster? Please, let's see some more of that going into next episode. Yeah, I thought the Samoan Island tribe would go over strong in this one, that you'd show Lance is one of the future members of the brand, of course being a part of the legendary Anoa'i family, which has done so much for the wrestling industry for many decades. We'll be talking about them quite a bit in this episode. Yeah, but apparently the Smash and Dash connection, they went over in this match, which, okay, like I said, 7 minutes, good showing from both men. Samu didn't really do all that much, but I will talk about him in a second as well. So yeah, congratulations to Smash and Dash. We will see what happens with them in the future. Of course, we cut to Sammy Callahan cutting a promo with his match against the most dangerous man in England, Jimmy Havoc, saying how they used to be friends, but when it all came down to it, Callahan realized how much of a phony Jimmy Havoc was, and that Havoc isn't the most violent wrestler in professional wrestling because you're looking at him. Ooh, let's see how we do. And we got a promo for Stokely Hathaway is returning soon to MLW. Very excited for this. Up there with Selena in terms of MLW and the indie scene. He's one of the best managers. He's one of those hype men that I would say Leo Rush aspires to be, if you're more familiar with WWE. The last time we saw him in MLW, he was kidnapped, put into the backseat of a car, and driven off to parts unknown, so we will see what happens there. We cut to Shane Strickland being interviewed, saying he's confident, he's ready to fight, because this is, whose house is this? It's Swerve's house. We cut to Selena, cutting a promo on Conan, saying that she can see the future, and she'd be able to, she didn't expect Conan would be able to bring Phoenix and Pentagon back to America, but she sees a very bright future, which is the MLW tag titles on her side. And we got the build-up. Finally, we have this main event. We have Low-Ki on commentary for the main event, which means commentary has gone up by about 500%. Seriously, the voice of the professional Low-Ki, the man could make a killing in voiceover work for animes, cartoons. I would pay a lot of money to hear him do some voiceover work in some cartoons. It would be incredible. The man could literally do whatever he wanted, but with his voice after he is done with his career in professional wrestling. But fortunately, he made the commentary during the main event that much better. And the build-up for this match for weeks and weeks and weeks, we have Filthy Tom Lawler going up against Swerve Shane Strickland. How was it? It was fine. I don't know what I was expecting. It was a good match, but I think all the hype, I feel like, I don't know, maybe my expectations were a bit too high. One of the things that kind of struck me as, again, the build-up to this match has been who is going to be the ace of MLW. And one of the problems with that, because during the match, Low-Ki, Selena distracted the referee, Low-Ki came through the crowd off commentary and did a big neutralizing kick to the back of Tom Lawler's arm, which has kind of hindered his ability to lock in his signature chokehold. They are protecting that move to that of the pedigree because Tom Lawler got the MMA fighting background, so clearly when he locks in a chokehold it is that much more unique and more devastating, which is why they are protecting that move to the moon. But yeah, because he did that, you can't really say with certainty that whoever won that match would be the leader of the MLW roster because it's not a clean victory. So, I don't know. That the way they phrased that, again, I think that's my thoughts on it being the idea of it being called the ace of MLW. But aside from that being the whole deciding the franchise of MLW thing, it did bring up a little interesting thing that I think a lot of people might have missed. It might be a suggestion that, because Shane Strickland actually took advantage of Tom Lawler's weakened state and tried to wear down him further for this match. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to put him away, and Tom Lawler was able to concede in this match. We had the spot, despite Tom Lawler's arm being taken out of account, he was able to lock in his signature chokehold, but I do like the spot of this, even though it made Strickland look very weak. He was able to bite down on the tape that he has on his arms, and he was able to bite down on that and lock in his chokehold with one arm. Yeah, about 5 seconds, and then Swerve just taps out straight away. But yeah, I think that this could be the deciding factor in saying that Swerve could be looking at a bit of a heel turn at some point. Ever since he lost the MLW Championship to Low-Ki, he's been on a bit of a losing streak. He does have his scheduled rematch in the next coming weeks. Obviously, we'll see more with that and whether or not he will continue his reign of bad luck. But yeah, I think it would be a great move for him if he were to be a heel, especially since they are trying to push Tom Lawler basically Tom Lawler to the sky. But overall, like I said, okay match, wasn't groundbreaking. All the build-up kind of hindered this a little bit. After the match, Tom Lawler was interviewed about his big win, and back a couple months ago, Tom Lawler won a 40-man Battle Riot Rumble, which entitled him to a championship opportunity of his choosing. And, of course, he said that he would challenge the MLW World Champion at Super Fight on February 2nd. Whether or not that will be when the episode airs, I'm not too sure. Probably not. But overall, this was a solid show for MLW. If you're kicking off your MLW journey, I wouldn't recommend starting off with this one. Usually you have a couple of okay hour-long segments, and then you have your really great main events. Like I said, the Ray Phoenix and Low-Ki match, that one is definitely worth your time. Next week, we're going to be having Jimmy Havoc going up against Sami Callihan. Spin the wheel, make the deal. That's going to be a bloody hardcore match. Jimmy Havoc is insane, man. And you're going to have PCO going up against Brodus King. Overall, it's going to be a great future. If nothing else, the future for MLW is always looking up. Moving on to the Lucha Temple, we have Season 4, Episode 20 of Lucha Underground. I have a confession to make before I get into this. I am not a regular viewer of Lucha Underground. I keep up to date with the podcast. I listen to our fearlessly good Greg Unchained, but I've watched last week's episode of Lucha, and I watched this week's episode, and I was a little taken aback just how different it is compared to my usual wrestling viewing. I think WWE and other promotions kind of ruined me in how I perceive wrestling to be. But what really struck me, and obviously, for you long-time loyalists of Lucha Underground, please leave a comment and let me know what your thoughts are on Lucha Underground. But essentially what I thought, I was really taken aback by the way that the action was cut away, the way they focused on the wrestlers and on the moves. It's very in your face, and it can be a bit jarring for a lot of people. I think that the best way I can describe it in my mind is that it's more of a production instead of a wrestling promotion. It's not a wrestling show, it's a TV show about a wrestling show, and you either like it or you don't. But yeah, not that I didn't enjoy myself. Obviously there was some great wrestling to be had here, but again, very jarring. It took me a little while to get used to that. we are 1 week away from Ultimate Lucha Quattro, and this week we just had the one big 7 to Survive match for the Gift of the Gods Championship, which saw Jake Strong, aka Jack Swagger, for those of you who are less familiar with the lucha scene as I am, going up against King Cuerno, Big Bad Steve, accompanied by Famous B, Hernandez, Aerostar, PJ Black, and Dante Fox. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Gift of the Gods Championship, it is the championship equivalent of a Money in the Bank contract. Initially, when you cashed in your Gift of the Gods Championship, it allowed you a championship opportunity of your choosing, provided that you gave the champion a week notice and, of course, a week to hype up the next event, which, of course, again, TV show or battle wrestling show, provide more ratings and more ratings for the next episode. Makes a lot of sense, but they've actually abolished that rule now. So it is essentially the Money in the Bank contract, and we are, like I said, on the road to Ultimate Lucha Quattro, and which is the big WrestleMania-like main event for Lucha Underground. I can definitely see that coming into play. So the winner of this match was actually Jake Strong, looking, pardon the pun, he looks quite strong going into this. This was a great match. Going into this match, Fox looked very strong to start off with. He was striking and diving everybody. Bit of a letdown from last week's Lucha Underground, I will say. If you're looking for answers from last week about stuff like who is the man in the limo, you're not going to get that here. This is just a whole episode essentially dedicated to the Gift of the Gods Championship, and then you have your after credit scene. But I'll go through the 7 to Survive match. Yeah, Dante Fox started off strong, really impressive showing. He targeted Hernandez for a little while. Hernandez tried to neutralize him. He kind of went for a 4-way slam and ground Fox a little bit. He went for his signature crucifix bomb, but Fox was able to get a backslide, and Hernandez was the first man to be eliminated. The way that you win the 7 to Survive match is pinfall or submission, no countouts, and you're allowed to use weapons if need be. So there are a lot of action floating all around the Lucha Temple. Again, very different than what I'm used to. But then we cut to the rest of the participants. They then gang up on Fox after his quick elimination of Hernandez. The match kind of broke down as Cuerno hit a fireman's carry slam onto Aerostar, which we'll be talking about again later on. Strong was kind of brawling with Dante Fox and kind of caught him in a Hurricanrana and powerbomb combo into a wall, which, beautiful. If nothing else, I love the fact that I love the action in Lucha Underground, and I love the mythology. I love when wrestling promotions can kind of create their own rules and kind of get you invested in that world. That's why I'm a big advocate for the supernatural stars of certain companies, and when certain promotions have their own kind of niche to things. Like, I'm a big fan of Blackcraft Wrestling over in the UK, in America, I should say, and I'm also a good fan of Underworld Wrestling here in the land of Oz. I love the rules around that promotion as well. So yeah, we cut back to Famous B gives Big Bad Steve a wrench, and he starts beating people with it for a bit. Again, no disqualifications here. PJ Black then cuts him off with a low blow. So, fair game once more. Jake Strong looked pretty good in this match. Again, he eliminated PJ Black. He went for his signature ankle lock. One of the things that I was not used to was how the extra effect of him, the extra TV crunch they did when he applied the ankle lock after the match, of course. So what happened is he eliminated PJ Black. He didn't release the hold. And just to add that little bit of, oh my god, shock and awe TV, he kept wrenching at PJ Black's ankle, and then the effect was added that he is literally snapping his ankle off, and you heard this big crunch, which is very different. I think I liked it. It's all very new to me, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, he has been eliminated. You have Strong and Steve kind of brawl in the ring for a bit. Like, obviously everyone's behind Big Bad Steve. Cuerno took out Strong, and Fox went after Steve, so everyone's kind of going to their respective corners there. You had Drago come out, which I love Drago. I'm more familiar with him in MLW, but obviously a more draconic-looking wrestler. He came out in construction gear, and he had the hard hat covering his horns, which just made me laugh. A dragon living amongst us, I thought that was fantastic. But yeah, he came out in construction gear because there was a forklift in the temple, and Aerostar actually went onto the forklift, and Drago raised him higher and higher to the roof. The crowd's anticipating, oh my god, what's going to happen? And he does this massive dive off the forklift at the highest it can go into a plancha onto Steve and Cuerno. It was incredible. Like, the build-up for it, that was a really great spot. After that, Aerostar pins Big Bad Steve, and yeah, he's been eliminated. Strong took advantage of Aerostar being hurt from that really big dive. Despite having a kind of a bit of a flurry with King Cuerno, Strong kind of caught him and again locked in the ankle lock. Different to when he eliminated PJ Black, he tapped out, Aerostar tapped out, but before he could wrench the ankle and you hear that TV crunch, King Cuerno helped Aerostar, and Jake Strong let go of the ankle, so Cuerno was able to help Aerostar to the back, and we were left now with three men, Fox, Cuerno, and Jake Strong. You had Strong going after King Cuerno. They, pretty much flying knee city. A lot of flying knees were throughout this match when it came down to it. Fox was on fire. I think he was the Iron Man of this whole match. He had a 450 splash. There was this great segment where Cuerno hit the Thrill of the Fox on Hunt, and then Cuerno kind of went for a surfboard stretch, but he refused to quit. That was a really great spot, I must admit. They continue to beat the shit out of each other, essentially. Fox flipped, so what happened was, we had Jake Strong going into the opposite turnbuckle. You had Fox hitting a rolling senton on King Cuerno and a flipping senton onto Jake Strong, which was, really interesting. You don't see this kind of action. Fox super kicked Strong and dropped him, but Cuerno hit a kick on Fox. All three men were down. You had, once all three men kind of got to their feet, they exchanged a little bit of punches while they're on the knees there. Fox and Cuerno started fighting amongst themselves. You saw a split-legged Spanish fly, which you got to see that. But then, Fox hit the Fox catcher on King Cuerno, and we're down to two men, Dante Fox and Jake Strong. Fox, again, the moveset behind this man is incredible. This is a great showing for him. He hit a 619, but not through the middle ropes. He was able to do it over the top rope initially, which was really great. Especially, it makes a lot of sense because Jake Strong is a taller gentleman as well. He's over 6 foot. Fox crashed to the floor. He did a shotgun dropkick onto the apron. You heard this really big thud. Then, again, Superkick City, but eventually Strong was able to block one of them and went for the ankle lock. Despite trying to roll around, he could not break Strong's grip, and he had to succumb, he had to tap out, and we have a new Gift of the Gods champion. The crowd were not happy, and in response to that, to show that he doesn't care, you heard the signature crack of Jake Strong snapping Dante Fox's ankle, which, you could tell they really were not looking forward to this. Again, I mentioned the Gift of the Gods Championship, the new rules. I can totally see, especially with Jake Strong being a former WWE guy, I can see that coming into play in the main event. We had our after-credit scene. Again, we have after-credit scenes in Lucha Underground. I'm a big Marvel fan, so this really tickled my fancy. We cut to the man with more surnames than people have championships, Johnny Mundo, training to go up against Matanza. We have Aerostar appearing, looking quite well after having his ankle snapped. Nearly having his ankle snapped, I should say. Saying that he cannot face Matanza alone. And that without his help, he would just be another sacrifice to the gods. Aerostar summoned Drago, who flew in. And Aerostar thanked Mundo for saving them a couple weeks ago. And they have a gift for Johnny Mundo in his quest to defeat Matanza. They are carrying the Gauntlet of Power. We see the return of that, which, again, Marvel fan, initially, first thing I thought was Infinity Gauntlet. I just, really loved the imagery there. And, of course, Johnny Mundo put on the gauntlet. He felt this surge of energy. There was this really hilarious spot. You see all the energy coursing through him. You saw lightning kind of coming off his abs, which was really great to see. I kind of spat up my drink for that one. Move over, Thor Odinson. There is a new God of Thunder in town, and his name is Johnny Mundo. As he said, he feels like a god after having the gauntlet on his wrist, saying he does not want to take it off. Drago asked Aristar if this was a good idea, giving the gauntlet to Mundo, and said only time will tell. Great episode, I would say. In terms of action, I do kind of prefer last week's episode, but again, that was more... This one was just devoted just to that one match leading up to Ultima Lucha Quattro. We now have the full card going into Ultima Lucha Quattro, which I'll run for you all now. We have the Reptile Tribe, who are the Lucha Underground Trios champions. They're going up against the Rabbit Tribe versus Exalicious, Eviless, and Sammy Guevara. We have E-Mac versus Mil Muertes in a death match. El Dragon Azteca Jr. versus Phoenix in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Johnny Mundo, again, going up against Matanza. You have Killshot, which is Shane Strickland. Really great to see him here. Going up against Son of Havoc in a mask versus mask match. You had Taya Valkyrie going up against Ricky Mundo. And the big main event, the champion, Marty the Moth Martinez, going up against Pentagon Dark in a Cero Nero match for the Lucha Underground Championship. Sounds exotic, but a no-fear match. It's a hardcore match. But how will Pentagon do? Will he reclaim the championship that he lost against Marty the Moth Martinez? Will Jake Strong interfere at some point? I feel like that's inevitable, but that remains to be seen. Before I cut to the other wide world of wrestling, I will cut to our lovely leader, Greg Unchained, as he talks to you about our sponsor for this week's episode, Threadbox.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Sorry to interrupt the podcast, B+ players, but I just need to take a second to tell you about Threadbox. Threadbox is a subscription service for men that makes looking good easier than ever before. Just fill out a few questions to start building your style profile, and from there you will be paired with a stylist who will send you new threads once a month, so you don't have to worry about checking the stores and finding new clothes. It's like having a personal shopper and stylist at your fingertips, and you just sit back, relax, wait for your awesome new gear to arrive in the mail. They sent me a box this month. I got a new pair of jeans. I got 2 shirts. You can check out the unboxing video on the Facebook page. And the best part about it is you can get in touch with your stylist by email at any time. So if you need new singlets, if you need new long sleeves, if you need new shoes, if there's something specific you want, you just let them know what you need and they'll tailor the box to your specific requests. It's a completely personalized service available on any budget. You'll always get way more value than you pay for because Threadbox work with all the best brands. Boxes start from just $40, and if you use our code, the B+15 at checkout today, you're going to get 15% off your first box. So what are you waiting for, man? Like, if you want to look better with less effort, head to threadbox.com.au and use the code the B+15 to get your box today.
And we are back, guys. Let's cover all the news here in wrestling. Very WWE heavy episode here. We're going to be covering a lot of stories when it comes to that. I think I should kick off to talk about the news that shocked the wrestling world last week's Raw. Leaki Joseph Anoa'i, aka Roman Reigns, opened Raw and vacated the Universal Championship after saying that he is once again battling with leukemia and he can no longer be that fighting champion that he wants to be and that the fans deserve. And he now needs to focus on his health and be with his family during this difficult time. One of the most heavy openings and most jarring openings to Raw I have seen in quite a number of years, actually. You had no idea, like, what can you say about that? That kind of hit home with me personally. I actually have had family who have struggled with leukemia in the past. I had a cousin who was 10 years old when he was diagnosed, and fortunately he was able to put it in remission. There was a lot of months there that were in the air in our family. But we all showed our supports, and my cousin is all the better for it. He's grown into a fine young man. But yeah, hearing that news, it's a lot. It's very heavy. Again, he started his battle with leukemia at 22. He was able to put in remission. He finished his American football career, and then after battling with that, WWE gave him a second chance, he said to the world. Really heartbreaking stuff. Yeah, a lot of fans have been showing their support for Roman Reigns. I'll read some of the tweets that people sent out. From Sasha Banks, love you, Roman Reigns. You taught so much about what it means to be a superstar here. Can't wait to see you back. You had Becky Lynch saying, you are the definition of what it means to be a leader and a champion and one of the toughest lads on the planet. We are all behind you and sending love. You will beat this. We all, our thoughts and prayers go to Roman Reigns, aka Joe Anoa'i, and his family. We're going to talk about them a little bit more as well. And Matt Hardy as well, saying, an amazing human being, an incredible performer, and a man I'm proud to be friends with. My thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. Get well soon, champ. One of the interesting things that's kind of come out since last week's Raw is that Dave Meltzer kind of reported that only a select number of people knew why Roman was vacating the Universal Championship. So really, it was Vince McMahon, Triple H, Kevin Dunn, just select executive members of the WWE board knew why he was doing that. But Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, they had no idea. And the commentary team had no idea. So when Roman did his big speech, left the belt in the ring, walked up the ramp to be reunited with his Shield brethren, the crying and that was genuine. They honestly had no idea, which kind of sounds mean that they're just doing that maybe just to get that emotion, just that extra grab at your heart. But I'll let that slide. It was just shocking news. I can't blame them for the way that it went out. I will talk as well a little bit about the Anoa'i family as well. I mentioned previously in the episode about Head Shrinker Samu. He actually announced on his Facebook that he is suffering with stage 4 liver cancer, which is so horrible to hear. It's bad enough that one member of a family has cancer, but that 2 members have it. It's just a difficult time for any family, and just adjusting to that lifestyle of someone focusing on their health and trying to show your support in any way possible. I will read out the Facebook post that Samu said. I want to take a minute to address the situation with myself and that of my family. I recently had posted I am selling shirts Anoa'i Strong. These shirts have been for sale for many years, and in light of the current situation that has struck myself and my family, I have decided to change the shirts to various colors for cancer. My cousin's news has struck the world, and we are all devastated at this time. What many of you may or may not know is I am also dealing with stage 4 liver cancer, and I'm currently waiting for God's grace to help me get a transplant. I am an elder member of my family, and am in no way I or my family attempting to profit from any serious sickness. Instead, I want to use our name in order to help doctors and researchers find ways to cure this evil sickness. I do not endorse or will I ever endorse profit on the misfortune of others or myself or that of my family. I want all of my friends, family, and fans to know that we will always remain Anoa'i Strong, and these shirts will remain for sale, and we will be speaking with various cancer organizations on how we can help. Until you can stand in the shoes we stand, you will never know the pain and the struggle we endure daily. Respectfully, Samu Anoa'i. Really heavy stuff. When I watched the last week's MLW match as well, I kind of know, obviously this was more of a showing for his son Lance, but I kind of was wondering why Samu didn't really have much of a showing there. And yeah, I don't blame him now. Geez, the man's going through cancer. Heavy stuff. Of course, everyone has been behind Roman. Like you saw Madison Square Garden put up on their billboard, "Get Well Soon Roman" for a whole day, which was amazing. But yeah, our thoughts and prayers here at the B Plus go to the Anawahi family. We hope that you all of you that are suffering have a quick recovery, and we hope that you can continue to do what you do and amaze us. Samu has done so much internationally. He's responsible for the creation of New Horizons here in Western Australia. He's a legacy member of the Anawahi family and deserves so much respect. Moving on to some other Saudi news, the story that just won't die. If you've been following us here on the B+, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Crown Jewel, and it's been up in the air for the longest time whether WWE will actually have the Crown Jewel event in Riyadh with all the controversy surrounding that, of course with the death of Saudi Arabian journalist Khashoggi, who was essentially assassinated in the Turkish consulate by the Saudi Arabian government when he was trying to get papers to marry his fiancée, which just disgusting stuff. We have been on the train of hashtag fuck Saudi Arabia for quite a while now. Now, if you're new to the podcast, when I say that, I'm not talking about the Saudi Arabian people per se. We're not talking about the place that holds many holy relics to the faith of Islam, but the nation state itself. Like, we are big advocates here of free speech. Like, hell, the way we're talking to you right now, of course, we like to speak our mind, and we like equality. We like everyone to be able to be treated equally in this world that we call home. And yeah, the nation state of Saudi Arabia is very backwards in a lot of the things it does, and this is just, we do not want to keep talking about this, so I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. But after weeks of speculation, because what's been happening is, if WWE were not able to have their Crown Jewel event in Riyadh, they had booked out a venue in Manchester, which straight after the Crown Jewel event, they were going to have Raw and SmackDown tapings in the UK, in Manchester. There was a third venue there that there was no live shows announced, so it felt like it was going to be that venue that would house Crown Jewel if the United States government was going to prevent WWE from going to Riyadh. And in the last week, if you went on to WWE at the time and looked on the WWE.com, you would have seen that the location for WWE Crown Jewel was Null, which was hilariously noted by Dave Meltzer, saying, can you find the GPS coordinates for me for Null? And we were, yesterday, at the time I'm recording, apparently there was going to be this big news. They were going to finally confirm to us yesterday what their news was going to be, and they didn't. The news came a day later, which we're all bracing ourselves, because the decision that essentially came out of WWE's hands, and it was really up to the US State Department whether or not WWE would be able to attend and fulfill their contractual obligations. But yeah, then we were able to get confirmation from WWE that yes, they are going to Crown Jewel, which, yeah, I understand that, like, morally, they have to uphold their contract. I understand that little bit, but ethically, this is just a shit decision. WWE should have just terminated the contract right then and there with all this news. It's been really disgusting thing, like, that's brought up a lot of problems and raised a lot of controversy with not just wrestling fans, but just the world in general. I will read out the full statement that WWE said. WWE has operated in the Middle East for nearly 20 years and has developed a sizable and dedicated fan base. Considering the heinous crime committed at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, the company faced a very difficult decision as it relates to its event scheduled for November 2nd in Riyadh. Similar to other US-based companies who plan to continue operations in Saudi Arabia, the company has decided to uphold its contractual obligations to the General Sports Authority and stage the event. Full year 2018 guidance is predicated on the staging of the Riyadh event as scheduled. When they later on said as well, they are continuing to monitor ongoing developments in the region, and there can be no assurances in this regard. if this event were to be cancelled, there could be material adverse impact on 2018 adjusted OIBDA guardians. So essentially, the decision, the way that it's phrased as well, it wasn't an ethical decision, it was a monetary one. They're trying to cover their losses from this horrific situation. And yeah, they're just fulfilling their obligation contractually. Now, WWE did sign a 10-year deal with the Saudi Arabian government, so whether they will continue their relationship with Saudi Arabia in the years to come, depending on what other news sprouts up from this assassination of the Saudi Arabian journalist Khashoggi, remains to be seen. But unfortunately, Crown Jewel is happening in Riyadh, which just makes me sick to my stomach. The sooner that we can put this story in our rear view, the better. In the build-up to this, I will say stars like Daniel Bryan and John Cena made their thoughts known that if indeed WWE was going to have the event in Riyadh, that they would not be participating at all. Of course, John Cena is one of the competitors in the WWE World Cup, which I'll just point out as well. World Cup, all 8 members of the World Cup, all American. Not really a World Cup if there are no different nationalities in there. I'll just say that right now. But then in Daniel Bryan, of course, is scheduled to face AJ Styles for the WWE Championship. It has been reported that Daniel Bryan did let WWE know that he did not want to take part in Riyadh, and he's still booked to be a part of that match. So whether he has been able to get out of that match by November 2nd remains to be seen. But we can confirm that John Cena has been able to stay true to his word and is no longer a part of the event. No doubt at the next week's Raw, they'll come up with a story to kind of kick him out. Oh, I shouldn't say kick out, it's a bit of a strong word, but to have someone take over his spot in the World Cup. Hopefully someone of a different nationality and make it a World Cup, for God's sake. But yeah, and this is the last bit of news about Crown Jewel that I will talk about. Hulk Hogan has been making his thoughts known that he is looking forward to joining WWE for Crown Jewel. I take this news with a grain of salt. Of course, Hulk Hogan has been reinstated to the Hall of Fame later on this year, and he has his own set of controversy, what with his racism comments a couple years ago. He was speaking very general. Whether or not he's actually referring to this year's Crown Jewel, that's a little bit up in the air, and he's saying how he looks forward to being a part of WrestleMania. Basically, he's saying that he's a company guy. I don't think he necessarily means that he's traveling to Saudi Arabia. Of course, maybe I could be wrong. If you follow our Facebook page, one of our lovely commenters made the point of, maybe they're going to secretly bring in Hulk Hogan and an assassination plot to take out the Prince of Saudi Arabia. That's how they make him beloved by the American people once more, which we just want to make light of this horrific situation as best as we can. Yeah, come November 2nd, we'll be able to stop talking about this. So I don't personally think that it means that Hulk Hogan will be in Saudi Arabia. I think he's just saying, I'm just glad to be a part of WWE again. But whether he does stay true to his word, we'll find out next week. Let's move on to some other news in the land of WWE. Kind of blink and you'll miss it. Of course, we opened the show, WWE Raw, with Roman Reigns relinquishing the Universal Championship, and then we ended the show with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose defeating the Raw Tag Team Champions Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre. So they are the new Tag Team Champions, which kind of got overshadowed by the fact that Dean suddenly turned on Seth Rollins, beat him senseless. We've been expecting this heel turn for quite a number. They've been telegraphing it for about a month or so now. So it's not that much of a shock, but the fact that they did it after Roman had that big news, that's just a big gut punch. But yeah, it was been pointed out by a Reddit user, Mutilated Cattle, which each their own, that Seth Rollins is now the first man in WWE history to be a double champion with every single Grand Slam championship. So, of course, if you remember, a couple years ago, he was the Intercontinental Champion and the WWE Champion at the same time. And now he is the Intercontinental Champion. I should say United States Champion, WWE Champion a couple of years ago. And now he is the Intercontinental Champion and a Raw Tag Team Champion. So, congratulations to Seth Rollins, the best worker in Raw at the moment, I'm going to say. Like, I'd say in all of WWE, but I think that title goes to AJ Styles, the face that runs the place. Especially with the news that Roman Reigns, that again, the Universal Championship has been taken off Raw once more. Obviously, we're going to have Braun Strowman going up against Brock Lesnar to see who will be the winner of that. If I'd place money on it, I'd hope that Braun Strowman gets the belt so that we can actually see it again on WWE programming. Because for the longest time, if you looked at the title that symbolized Raw, it was the Intercontinental Championship, and it's been held very illustriously by Seth Rollins. And no doubt he will continue to hold that belt for a very long time. We wish him nothing but the best. He definitely deserves this title, and being a part of WWE history that much more. What I will talk about now, I'll move away from, I will say as well, we do have the full card for WWE Evolution, which talks us about some news that we will happily talk about here at the B+. We got the full card for WWE Evolution, which is happening October 28th. We have the Raw Women's Championship match. We have Ronda Rousey going up against Nikki Bella. We have the last woman standing match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. We have Becky Lynch going up against Charlotte Flair. We have the NXT Women's Championship match. Kairi Sane going up against Shayna Baszler. You have the finals of the Mae Young Classic. We have Io Shirai versus Toni Storm. We have the big match, Trish Stratus and Lita versus Mickie James and Alexa Bliss. The Riot Squad will be going up against Natalya, Bayley and Sasha Banks. And of course we have the big Women's Battle Royal. I am looking forward to this match. I will bring up a couple of injuries as well with WWE, especially with Alexa Bliss. But I will say I'm really looking forward to see this Evolution card. It's been announced earlier in the week that being an all-female event, despite being an all-female event, Michael Cole is going to be the play-by-play commentator for the show, joined alongside Beth Phoenix and, of course, Renee Young. And it was actually announced as well that the male stars of the WWE roster, the ones who don't appear on Crown Jewel, or the ones, there's a couple of days in between, should say, they are permitted to be valets for the event to show a little bit of equality there, which I understand that. I kind of didn't want to see it. It's like, just for the fact that Crown Jewel, no women are allowed, period. And they're saying that, well, why can't we just have an event where it's just all women? But again, like the sooner we stop talking about Crown Jewel, the better, and it's not going to impede Evolution in the slightest. It's just a little extra thing that's just been advertised, and for better or worse, Michael Cole has been the play-by-play announcer for WWE for a number of years, and there is a reason for that. So we are looking forward to October 28th. I'm going to be talking about a couple of injuries. Alexa Bliss looks like she's been cleared to face to be cleared to face Trish Stratus and Lita in her tag team match alongside Mickie James. It seemed for a while there that she broke her arm or in a house show match, and it looks like so at last week's Raw we had Mickie James and Alicia Fox attacking Trish and Lita. So they WWE were kind of hedging their bets, saying, well, if Alexa can't make it, then this is the match that we're going to have, which, of course, Alexa has been building this feud with Trish for a number of weeks, and she is the next generation of women's champion. She is the next Trish Stratus in my mind, and I mean that in the most positive way possible. She is going to rule that company for many years to come, and I'm glad that it seems like she's able to compete, especially with it being WWE Evolution. I look forward to seeing that. Some other news, we've actually just hot off the desk here. There are a couple of injuries that have been announced to WWE stars. Samoa Joe, he's been off WWE SmackDown for a number of weeks since losing his match against AJ Styles in Super Showdown in Melbourne due to a quote-unquote undisclosed problem. What that means, honestly don't know. Been reported by Dave Meltzer. It seems he has been advertised for a few live shows in the coming weeks, but with this quote-unquote undisclosed problem, it seems likely that WWE will pull him out of the event. So, whatever it is, to the other Joe in the WWE world, we wish you a speedy recovery. And the second man as well, Bobby Lashley, in last week's Raw, he actually separated his shoulder, which sounds like he's been in a lot of pain. Whether or not that means that he'll actually get time off TV, that remains to be seen. I hope not, because we just had this big double turn of for Kevin Owens to heal up and have double knee surgery. They made him a face during their match, and then you had Bobby Lashley turn heel, and of course with Lio Rush next to him, Bobby has been able to finally get some momentum behind him again. And if this is the case and he actually needs to take some time off, this will come at the worst time. But again, this is the nature of the business of WWE. That will lead into my next topic in a little bit. But best of luck to Bobby Lashley to overcome this and hopefully just astound us all that more. We want your this run with WWE to be a very fruitful one for you. Moving on to the international side of things, I want to talk about Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks. He had a Twitter Q&A during the week where one of the issues raised as a result of Roman Reigns being diagnosed with leukemia once more was that wrestlers should be given some compensation. They should be given health insurance to focus on their health and come back better than ever, and even an off-season, which I cannot fault them for people saying that. And yeah, Nick Jackson apparently just pretty much said, yeah, I 100% agree with that. Which, all of this, if you're unfamiliar, a lot of people were made aware, like, it really came to the forefront, the issue of wrestlers being independent contractors when CM Punk left the WWE back in 2014, and he had his big podcasts on Colt Cabana's podcast. He had his big, long speech about how they are independent contractors. They are allowed by rights to go wherever they want and perform their duties wherever they please, but WWE try and make them exclusive to them. And when he left the WWE, they tried to stick a bunch of no-compete clauses on him, but again, he's not an employee, he's an independent contractor, he should be able to do whatever he wants, right? Well, if I'm an employee, then I should be given these benefits, these benefits, these benefits. Very messy situation. WWE had been able to avoid this kind of categorization for decades, and yeah, with Roman Reigns being diagnosed with leukemia again, this is just only going to be taken to the forefront once more. If you remember from last week, Cody was actually talking about how promoters need to, that talent need to be weary of certain promotions and they need to look after themselves. If you take into account his words from last week and you take into account Nick Jackson's words this week, it sounds like they're having talks about a potential union for wrestlers, like international wrestlers. Obviously, their role in professional wrestling is up in the air come 1st of January. If you watch their YouTube show, Being the Elite, please, if you haven't seen it, it's hilarious. Those guys are amazing. They have shown that you don't need WWE to be a breakout international star. And whatever the future holds for them, I am very much looking forward to seeing them. But I will preface that because with our next story here, moving on to Cody, in another Twitter Q&A, like these seem to give us the best nuggets of information. Cody essentially confirmed that he is no longer a member of the Bullet Club. He said that, no, that's Jay White's thing. I made a lot of friends with the Bullet Club, but no, that's no longer me. Some people were shocked by this. People saying that, that it might be a work. I don't think so. Of course, there are a few things you can take away from this. One is that Cody, Young Bucks, they're going to WWE, or at the very least, they want you to think that they're going to WWE, which, if you watch Being the Elite, they make you think that all the time. It's one of the best points of humor, and it never gets old. It never gets old. If you watch the last episode, you had it cutting to Cody with the Stardust outfit once more, whether or not he will have to, and there's also been a mysterious H giving Cody, Kenny Omega letters, and Adam Page. Really funny stuff. But yeah, the fact that he said that, but what I like to think of this is, and obviously Cody's just stirring the pot, but what I am taking this to mean is that they are kind of rebranding themselves as the Elite now and not the Bullet Club. So you have the Elite, the Bullet Club, and the Firing Squad. Of course, Firing Squad led by Tungaloa, Tamatonga, Bad Luck Fale, all those guys. So yeah, they're trying to, and if you notice again, all the pieces of the puzzle kind of fit together, where you see on the Young Bucks Twitter, they actually released their final line of Bullet Club t-shirts. So I feel that they're focusing on the Elite, the Golden Elite more, and that will be their own little stable. They're going to make that as great, if not greater, than the Bullet Club. How they go about that remains to be seen. But yeah, whatever the future holds for these guys, hopefully, personally, I don't want them to go to WWE because they're doing great work. Great work with what they're doing at the moment. But yeah, all the very best to them. Keep doing what you're doing, guys. Moving on to a record-breaking Iron Woman match. I love to see this news where Tessa Blanchard and, for those of you guys in the WA land, the WA Indie Girls champion, Mercedes Martinez. That's a nice little shout out there. But yeah, these guys made history, women's history at Rise 10, where it was initially meant to be a 60-minute Iron Woman match for the Knockouts Championship, but it was actually announced on Twitter earlier before that match started that it had been extended to a nail-biting 75 minutes. This is now the longest Iron Woman match, or longest match in general, that has ever been shown in America, which is fantastic to see. The previous record was held by Mercedes Martinez back in 2011. So it's nice to see that it was held by another great workhorse of women's wrestler. If you want to see us talk about the state of women's wrestling internationally and in Australia as well, if you look to our previous podcast, we had the Bronco Busters. We had Aaron Dick on the show talking to Greg about just like the Bronco Busters. For those you don't know, they like to highlight female performers and also, let me get this right, LGBTQIA plus wrestlers. I think I said that right. But yeah, they like to advertise it doesn't matter what your orientation is, whether you're a man or a woman, so long as you are passionate at what you do, and you will go far in the wrestling world. As long as you have the drive, nothing should stop you. And again, that's why one of the reasons I admire the Bronco Busters, just the fact that they are shedding some light on some performers who wouldn't usually get it. Just like us, where we usually we like to shine a light on all the Australian wrestlers here. In all the states across Australia, we like to advertise their fantastic work. They deserve a lot more credit. We've got a couple more news stories before we wrap up our episode for the day. The NWA have announced the Crockett Cup if you watch the 70th anniversary show of the NWA. It was really great showing. But they actually announced, Road Warrior Animal announced the tag team tournament would return in 2019. He was, of course, accompanied by his partners Crimson and Jax Dane after they had their victory over Shannon Moore and Crazy Steve. For those who don't know, the Crockett Cup, it ran in the late 80s, only for a few years. Its official title is the Jim Crockett Senior Memorial Cup Tag Team Tournament, which is a big mouthful. And I believe the last winners were Lex Luger and Sting, but it's really great to see that NWA has got this big resurgence. Of course, with Cody winning the NWA Championship at All In, that was just, I cried. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I cried at that. And it's really great to see that NWA have found their niche again. They've actually found that they can just travel anywhere and be their own thing, but at the same time, they can travel the world, which is what the NWA title was meant to do. We've now got a new national champion in Willie Mack. A big congratulations to you, sir. We have the women's champion, Jazz, who's held the belt for over 2 years now. Long may she reign. Incredible performer. I just see great things happening for NWA going forward. Whether or not they'll revive the tag team championships eventually, I hope so, but I feel like that's maybe more of a next year thing. They'll build that up for another big event. Of course, we have Cody and Nick Aldis number 3 maybe to look forward to, because Nick Aldis is once again the NWA champion. But again, very excited for the future of NWA, and I think I'll wrap up our episode here of All the Rest by talking about Neville has actually been announced, I should say Park now, but he's actually been announced to be part of, he's been, obviously he made his return to Dragon Gates just last month, but he's been announced to be doing a few indie UK shows, he's been announced for Big League Wrestling, Yeovil, November 18th, where he'll be going up against Dean Allmark and Jane McLusty. It's great to see him again in the independent scene. Obviously, as Park, he has done incredible work. If you know him as Neville, that's just the tip of the iceberg. This guy is an incredible performer. He's already been announced for the Irish promotion OTT, but no opponent has been announced yet. I am really looking forward to what the future for Neville holds. I'm sorry, I keep calling him Neville. For the future of Park holds. He's a very underrated performer. He's going to have so much time to shine. I was a little disheartened, we had that little bit of a tease that he might be appearing at All In, which would have blown our collective minds. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But nevertheless, we will see where he goes from here. I think we'll wrap it up here, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what we do here, please leave us a comment and please leave us a 5-star review. It really does make a difference. We'd love to hear from you guys. If you want to follow the Greg Unchained, our fearless leader, you can follow him at Greg Unchained on Twitter and the Greg Unchained on Instagram. If you want to follow me and tell me how I did today, you can follow me at Mr Myster1ous on Twitter with a 1 instead of an I, and on Instagram at Mr Myster1ous, on pretty much that on all the socials. If you want to follow the B+, we are the B+ Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit. And the B+ Wrestling everywhere else. Like, share, subscribe, hit that 5-star review. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I've been Mr Myster1ous, and I will see you guys very soon.
Hold 1. Arm drag.
You're not doing this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
So, no speak English.
Dummy.
Goodbye and good night.
Hold 2. Arm bar.
This is the worst town I've ever been in. It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
Hold 3. The moss covered 3-handle family granunzo.